All right, hi, Attorney Steve. We're back, and in this video, we are talking about music infringement. The great Katy Perry involved in a music infringement lawsuit. Okay, so this case was a case brought by a plaintiff who was a Christian rap singer Marcus Gray, aka The Flame, known as The Flame. And so he put a song out. Song was called Joyful Noise. Joyful Noise. And he alleged in a complaint about, I think it was 2014. Let me come up here and look exactly. This is a while back. Just shows you how long it can take a case. Yeah, down here in July 2014, a complaint was filed. Let's take a quick look for copyright infringement, okay? And basically for using certain beats out of the song, certain beats and notes. So it's not a case over the actual song or the lyrics, it's over the beats and the notes. So here you have it, Marcus Gray, professionally known as PKA The Flame, or just call him Flame, and a couple of others that co-wrote this song, Joyful Noise, with him, suing a lot of different defendants, Capitol Records, Katy Perry. So demanding, so this was way back in July of 2014, if you can imagine. This is how long it can take to get a federal case to court. And that's why when we talk to clients dealing with music infringement, you got to have a good, clear case of liability. You're going to have to get a federal court to unanimously agree with you, which they did in this case. A panel of 9 jury members agreed that there was infringement. Okay, so this is a pretty big case. We're going to be waiting to hear what the jury renders as the final verdict as far as the dollar amounts, because the liability stage was what we call bifurcated. That means it was split into 2. The trial was split into a liability phase, and once they proved liability, now they're going to be talking about damages and who pays what. So let's go down here. I thought it would be something new for you guys to see. Something that I don't show much, but let's go down here to, let's go down to the jury verdict, okay? Maybe you haven't seen a jury verdict. This is what they look like, okay? So this is going to go to the jury. And here it is, Marcus Gray versus Katy Perry et al. That means all the other defendants as well. And this is heard in the United States District Court, Central District of California, Western Division. That's Los Angeles. And interestingly, it looked like the case was originally filed in Missouri for some odd reason. And I don't know much about that. But here's the questions that were submitted to the jury. Here are the jury's, the actual check marks from the 9-panel jury and by the foreman. Let's see if that's signed by the foreman here. Okay, so there you have it. Dated by the foreman. Usually it would be signed, but let's take a look here. So they were submitted a few simple questions to ask. 1, did the plaintiff prove by a preponderance of the evidence that Dark Horse contains material from the musical composition of the plaintiff, Joyful Noise? That is both the original, that the song is both original to the plaintiffs and not commonplace expression. The jury said yes, they did prove by a preponderance of the evidence that the music was original and it contains material from the song. Okay, so that was yes. Number 2, did plaintiffs prove by a preponderance of the evidence? And just so you know, preponderance of the evidence means more likely than not. What some people call the 51% rule. Did plaintiffs prove by a preponderance that the Joyful Noise and Dark Horse musical compositions are objectively, substantially similar in copyrightable, protectable expression? Say that 10 times fast. So in order to have infringement, you have to find substantial similarity in the 2 songs. And I will put just for you people that want to hear the songs, I'll put a link down in my message box below if you want to hear the 2 songs. To me, they're kind of similar, but the jury said here substantially similar in copyrightable protected expression, okay? 3, did the plaintiffs prove by a preponderance of the evidence that an ordinary, reasonable person would find that the total concept and feel of the Joyful Noise and the Dark Horse musical compositions are substantially similar in copyrightable, protectable expression? So again, they found an ordinary person would have found it to be the total concept and feel to be substantially similar. Okay, so they're just nailing it here. Did plaintiffs prove by a preponderance of the evidence that joyful noise was widely disseminated, such that the defendants had a reasonable opportunity to hear joyful noise prior to creating their song Dark Horse? So one of the things you need to show in copyright infringement is that the defendant had access. And in this case, there was a dispute about this because all the defendants apparently testified. Access? What? No. What? I never. Marcus Gray? No. Who's he? Never heard of him. No. How would he? How would we have access? This is just a Christian rap singer. I don't know. It's kind of its own little niche. The jury didn't buy it. The jury said Marcus Gray, he had his song Joyful Noise. He had it out there. It was, I think he said something like he had 2 million hits. So it wasn't like he was just some little guy living in a vacuum on a religious channel. He actually had a pretty big following. And the jury found that they did have access to the music, and so they could have copied it. That's what that's all about. Number 5. Now this is the defendant's burden of proof. Did the defendants prove that they did not avail themselves of the opportunity to hear joyful noise prior to creating their Dark Horse? So the defendant had an opportunity to say there's no way we could have accessed it, but they didn't carry their burden on that point. So let's move on. Number 6, the defendants proved by a preponderance of the evidence that defendants independently created Dark Horse. There is a defense in copyright law known as independent creation. So if you can show, we were working all weekend in the studio. This is what we came up with. We had no idea about you. And wow, it's amazing that the two actually sound kind of similar. It's just pure coincidence, happen chance. But the jury said, no, we're not buying it. Number 7, did the plaintiffs prove by a preponderance of the evidence that the inclusion of the instrumental music, the beat, created by Mr. Ojikuwu in Joyful Noise is a part of a joint work of authorship with the other plaintiffs? So yes, he was in there as a joint author. Okay. Number 8, here we go. As to each defendant below, here's your chance to get off. As to each defendant listed below, do you find a preponderance of the evidence that he, she, it copied Joyful Noise or distributed Dark Horse? And as to Capitol Records, yes. Jordan Hewson, yes. Here we have Catherine Elizabeth Hudson right here. That's Katy Perry. Okay, yes. And right on down the line, WB Music, Kaz Money Inc., so forth and so on. So we're getting a lot of yeses here. And again, that should be a signed verdict. But there you have it. That was the jury form. Now they're going into, let's take it one step further here. Where do we go now? Let's cruise down here. So now we have jury. We have the proposed jury verdict. Let's go take a peek at that real quick, just so you can see how these cases unfold. Here's defendant's proposed special verdict form on damages. So now they want to go back. Now we're in the damages stage of the lawsuit. Now they want to go back and ask, did the plaintiffs prove by a preponderance of the evidence that there is a causal nexus between the defendant's gross revenue and the use of the Joyful Noise musical composition in Ostinato number 2 in Dark Horse? So this is going to have to be answered because there has to be a causal nexus between defendants' gross revenue and their use of the song. So they're going to try to argue, okay, well, even if you found that we copied this little beat here, you still have to show how much money we made. We get to show our deductible expenses, and we can show that there's other reasons why Dark Horse did so well. It did so well because it's Katy Perry, and it's the people she works with. It's their skill in promotion. It's all these other things. It's not just that beat that made it successful. So they're going to try to get that out of the jury. We'll see how that goes. The parties have stipulated, I guess there's going to be a stipulation as to the net profits. Now, realize the gross receipts, that's the total amount of money that somebody takes in. The net is what you net, is what's left in the net when you're done. So we're talking about net profits here. And so there's going to be maybe some stipulations on that so that they can figure out, how much money was actually made. Question 3, what percentage, if any, of the net profits earned by defendants from Dark Horse is attributable to the use of joyful noise, musical composition in Ostinato number 2 in Dark Horse as opposed to other factors? In other words, well, it's Katy Perry. That's the only reason it's successful is it's her. It's Katy Perry, the magnificent. She's American Idol judge. So at any rate, she did 2015. She did the halftime Super Bowl performing the song. This is why the song has made so much money. So there's going to be a lot of stuff left to argue. Probably forensic accountants involved here. There could also be a settlement at this point. You know, once you know that liability's there, you might see some parties coming forward and just saying, "Look, let's settle." Or a global settlement, which was all the parties getting together. Number 4, please multiply the amount of net profits earned by each defendant identified in question 2 by the percentage you determined in question 3 and state the resulting amount for each defendant below. Okay, so again, we're just getting to the math here. Now, this is a proposed instruction from the defendant side, okay? Plaintiffs may have a different proposed instruction. And then I'm just going to finish here with a final little piece of edification on copyright music infringement. Let's go to the jury instructions, the proposed. So this is what they want the jury to hear. And I think it's worth taking a quick look at here. And what do they have? One jury instruction here. Okay, so what they want to tell the jury is a copyright owner may recover the profits of a defendant that are attributable to the infringement. You must determine the profits of each defendant attributable to the infringement separately. So they want them to determine each defendant's profits separately. The fact that you found a defendant liable for copyright infringement does not mean that defendant is liable for profits. You may make an award of defendant's profits only if you first find that the plaintiff showed, by a preponderance of the evidence, that there was a causal nexus between the infringement and that defendant's gross revenue. If you find that the plaintiffs have shown by a preponderance of the evidence that there is a causal nexus between the use of joyful noise, musical composition, and ostinato number 2 in Dark Horse and a defendant's gross revenue, you must then determine that portion of the defendant's net profits attributable to the infringement. First, a defendant's net profits, also known as net receipts, are determined by subtracting all expenses incurred by that defendant from that defendant's gross revenue. A defendant's gross revenue is all of the defendant's receipts from the use of joyful noise, musical composition in ostinato number 2 in Dark Horse. The plaintiffs have the burden of proving each defendant's gross revenue by a preponderance of the evidence. So they've likely had accountants in here trying to figure all this out and discovery, so forth and so on. I can only imagine this is probably why the case took so long, but that's an awful long time in court here. Expenses. These are expenses that the defendant can try to deduct. Expenses include all operating costs, overhead costs, production costs incurred in producing a defendant's gross revenue. Expenses also include, but are not necessarily limited to, fees that the defendant paid on the revenue. The defendants have the burden of proving their respective expenses by a preponderance of the evidence. Second, after determining each defendant's net profit, you then must determine whether any portion or percentage of the profits is attributable to factors other than the use of joyful noise, musical composition, and ostinato number 2 in Dark Horse. These factors include, but are not limited to, the talent, drawing power, and the popularity of the defendants, and non-infringing musical elements of Dark Horse, such as the lyrics and music other than the ostinato number 2. So they'll say, well, you know, Katy Perry and Juicy J, they wrote their own lyrics. So, I mean, you know, probably the song was popular because of their lyrics. So don't be surprised to hear that. You'll most likely hear that sort of argument in the damages stage here. Okay, the defendants have the burden of proving what portions of their profits, is attributable to factors other than the use of the joyful nose, musical composition, and ostinato number 2 in Dark Horse. In doing so, the defendants do not need to prove to a mathematical certainty the profits that are attributable to other factors. They only need to provide a reasonable division. So if I had to guess, I would say they're probably going to show that reasonable division. They're probably going to show that there's a lot of factors that made this Dark Horse song great, and even if there was copying of some beats and notes, maybe they're going to try to limit it to the smallest amount of damage as possible. So we're going to keep an eye on this case. We'll see what happens after 5 years. 5 years of litigating a federal copyright case in California, and we'll keep you posted and let you know what that final verdict looks like, and hopefully give you a peek of it. So that's music infringement for y'all today. Hope you having a great day out there, and if you like this video, make sure you give us that like button. If you have any comments, let us know. Listen to the 2 songs. I'm going to put them in the message box so you can hear them. And let me know what you think. Let me know what you think the case is worth. Let me know what you think it's going to settle for. Okay, thanks for watching. Attorney Steve out. For more information about our legal services, including entertainment and intellectual property law, find us on the web at attorneysteve.com. That's attorneysteve.com, the first name in legal services. I gotta run. Talk to you later.